All right, let's jump right in. We're all talking about the AI boom, but we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. Not the chip makers, not the software giants. Nope. We're looking at the company that has to literally keep the lights on for this whole revolution. PPL, a utility company making a massive play for the future.
To really get our heads around what's happening, we've got to start with a question that frames the just sheer scale of this whole thing. Because you see, AI isn't just about code and algorithms. It's about an incredible, almost unbelievable amount of energy.
And here it is, the answer in one jaw-dropping number, 25.2 gigawatts. Now, to put that in perspective, a single gigawatt can power like 750,000 homes. So, what on earth is this massive number? Okay, now here's the kicker, the part that makes this number just wild. This isn't some national forecast, it's not even for the whole state. That 25.2 gigawatts, that's the demand PPL is seeing from data centers in its Pennsylvania territory alone. That is a mind-boggling number for just one utility to handle.
A surge like this, it's not a ripple, it's a full-blown energy tsunami. And it's threatening to completely overwhelm the power grid as we know it. This is a problem that needs a totally new playbook.
So to really get the challenge here, you gotta know who's in charge of the grid. For PPL, that's an organization called PJM. Think of them as the air traffic controllers for electricity across 13 states. And they are on the front lines, watching this massive wave get closer and closer. And here's PPL's CEO, Vince Sorgi, basically just cutting right to the heart of it. This is classic supply and demand, right? The demand from AI is just exploding, but the supply of power, it's just not keeping up. And that gap, that's the core of the whole problem. So what do you do if you're a utility and you see that tsunami on the horizon? Well, you don't just patch a few things here and there. No way. You launch a complete and total overhaul. And an overhaul like this, yeah, it comes with a pretty hefty price tag. We're talking $23 billion that PPL is planning to invest over the next 4 years, just to get its infrastructure ready for this new reality. And you can see right here, we're not talking about business as usual. They've jacked up their capital plan by $3 billion. That's a massive jump, and it tells you everything you need to know about how seriously they're taking this. This is a fundamental shift. Okay, so you might be wondering, how does a utility actually make money by spending billions of dollars? Well, it all comes down to this term, the rate base. Think of it this way. The more a utility invests in approved stuff like poles and wires, the bigger its rate base gets. And that base is what regulators let them earn a profit on. And that $23 billion investment is set to grow PPL's rate base by an average of over 10% a year. Now, for a utility company, trust me, that is some seriously strong and, more importantly, predictable growth. But, making the grid stronger is only half the fight. You can build the biggest, baddest highways in the world, but if there are no power plants to generate the electricity, what's the point?
So with this huge power shortage looming across the whole region, the game has changed. The new mantra for these massive data centers is bring your own generation. You can't just plug in anymore. You gotta help make the power too.
And this is where PPL does something really, really smart. They've teamed up with the private equity giant Blackstone. Together, they're going to build and run new power plants specifically to power these data centers directly. It's a brilliant move. And this partnership, it's a total game changer. For the data centers, it gives them what they want most, speed. And for PPL, it creates this whole new potential for profit that isn't even in their main financial plan. It's all just pure upside. Okay, so this sounds fantastic for the AI companies, great for investors, but it leads us to, the elephant in the room. With all these billions being spent, what does it mean for the rest of us and our electricity bills? Right. Let's just tackle that question head on. It's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? And PPL knows they better have a really good answer if they want to keep everyone, customers, regulators, on their side. So part one of their answer? They're getting lean, really lean. People already managed to slash $170 million in yearly operational costs, and they hit their goal a whole year early. That's real money that helps offset these huge new investments. Their whole strategy really boils down to 3 key things. First, cut your own costs, like we just saw. Second, use tech, even AI itself, to run the grid smarter. And third, and this one is huge, make the new guys pay their own way.
The data centers have to put up serious cash and credit up front so that regular customers aren't left holding the bag. Okay, so we've seen the plan to power AI, and we've seen the plan to try and keep things affordable. Now let's tie it all together and see what this means for the company's bottom line. What's the outlook for investors?
All right, before we get to the numbers, let's just quickly break down a term you're going to see. EPS CAGR. It sounds complicated, but it's basically just a fancy way of measuring how steadily a company's profits are growing each year. It's all about consistency.
And here is what that all translates to. PPL is projecting a super solid 6 to 8% annual earnings growth, plus a dividend that keeps on growing. You put it all together, and they're looking at a total return for investors of 10 to 12%. For a utility, that is absolutely top tier.
You know, when you take a step back, this whole story is way bigger than just PPL. What they're doing, investing like crazy in the grid, finding creative ways to get new power online, and trying to balance it all with cost, it's a playbook for the entire energy industry.
Which really leaves us with a final big thought to chew on. The AI revolution. It feels like magic, right? But it's not. It's built on something very real, raw, massive amounts of electricity. And as we've seen, providing that power comes with huge costs and huge risks, which really makes you stop and think, what's the real cost of powering this incredible new future?